Good morning, everyone. Lots going on as usual. Today's Friday, August 15th, 2025, and I'm excited to report I have viewers tuning in on all of the stream things. So the stream seems to be working. Spotify ended up working yesterday, so everything worked out okay. Maybe I was just streaming too early and it wasn't ready for me or something like that. I'm not sure. The House of Commons was hacked, and we'll talk about that. I'm not really surprised, and with the House of Commons being hacked, it was just people's data that got out. But I mean, what does that say about our government, right? I saw somebody talking about, it was Trump saying his father told him if the door's dirty, don't go into the restaurant, because if the front door is dirty, then, probably the kitchen's dirty. And I feel like that's an apropos comparison to when your government gets hacked, right? Like it's not a good look. And it makes you think that everything else is as rotten and kind of Mickey Mouse as whatever government server is being run, right? And that's just not great. Mortgage companies are asking for social media handles. No, I don't use social media very much. Highly skilled military recruits from allied countries. So they want to import highly skilled military recruits for the Canadian military from allied countries. Wow, really? I just kind of saw that yesterday and I went, because yeah, what could go wrong? Sure, what could go wrong for sure. Alaska summit is happening. Zelensky apparently is going to join Trump and Putin. That was announced yesterday in the evening, like afternoon, evening, and I was surprised by that. But at the same time, if you were having a meeting without Putin, that wouldn't really be valid either. You know what I'm saying? So unless you're doing it to gauge the temperature of Zelensky without Putin, and everybody knows that you're not going to get to a meaningful end to this conflict without all parties represented, right? So cutting out Europe, talking with just Zelensky, we'll see how the whole thing goes. I've got an AI video to show you that made me laugh as well. And I'm sad to say yesterday I got through telling Greg that AI videos were kind of dumb and people don't really like them and they don't really watch them. And I haven't seen one that I really wanted to share with you. And then this morning, because he said, no, man, you're wrong. This next 5 years is going to be crazy. And I was like, yeah, it's going to be crazy for sure. But this morning I saw this video and I sent it to him and I said, I was wrong about AI, man. This is hilarious. He called it slop. We'll see what you have to say. The State Department is taking aim at Canada for our bad policies around speech. Tulsi Gabbard is targeting Fauci with Jay Bhattacharya, and canola is big business, bigger business than milk. How will this trade war with China end? Bailouts. Bailouts is my prediction, and you will know that my prediction was correct by the end of these tabs right here. So there's lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, we've got canola oil and the Canola Wars. And CBC says the federal government, well, this is in a Toronto Sun article, Charleboy, this is the food doctor writing an article in the Toronto Sun. And he says, why are we trading our breadbasket for a battery pack? Canada's agri-food sector is being used as collateral in unrelated industry policy fights. And so that's interesting. And a quote from the article says, the federal government's trade stance is effectively protecting a fragile EV industry at the expense of a robust and profitable canola sector. One is speculative and policy-driven. The other is market-proven and globally competitive. The policy choice here should be obvious. Canada must either adjust its EV tariff position towards China or carve out exemptions to protect agricultural exports. Beijing has made its expectations clear. So fix this, Canada, and we'll gladly take your canola, maybe, right? I think we've done a lot of damage, but it seems like the people in charge, that's their job. It seems like they're here to do damage, and that's concerning because they're not supposed to do that. They're supposed to represent our best interests, right? Kirk is responding to this whole thing. He says yearly contribution to Canada's economy, dairy is $20 billion, canola industries, $43 billion. Politicians will destroy Canada's economy in trade negotiations over the dairy industry, but won't blink twice when the canola industry is targeted. What's important for Canadian or Eastern Canada will always be more important than what impacts Western Canada, and this is why Canada doesn't work. And yeah, maybe. Here's Holly Doan, and she's highlighting Pierre Poilievre's stance on this. Parliament must look at ways we can penalize the regime in Beijing over tariffs on $40,000 or 40,000 canola farmers, says opposition leader Poilievre. He proposes immediate cancellation of $1 billion in federally financed contracts with the Chinese shipyards. Okay, or we could revisit the EV mandate. What? He's saying, you know what? Let's go to war with China economically. We're going to win this war just like we're going to win the trade war with the United States. We need to do dollar for dollar tariffs. So, wow, out of touch. Is he going to win the election this week or next week? It's in the next 5 days, I think. Monday, right? I don't know, pretty wild stuff. So he wants to punish Beijing instead of figuring out a way to make this whole thing work and remove the EV tariffs or create carve-outs, as was suggested by the food professor, or at least negotiate in good faith rather than, and I mean, I'm not saying we should keep the $1 billion ferry contract. I'm not saying that we should do that because realistically, everybody in Canada was saying, buy Canadian. And then everybody in BC said, okay, let's go buy Chinese. So that's weird. So like, but I think it's a separate issue. I don't know that you can tie the canola stuff to the $1 billion ship thing. I think you probably need to deal with the canola thing with the EV mandate and tariffs and all the rest. And if you don't do that, China's not going to respond. And so I feel like this is purposefully obtuse, right? I don't know. He's not coming up with a good solution. He's coming up with a crappy solution that unthinking people will find acceptable, maybe. The food professor says, Carney says aid for the canola sector is on the way. Bailouts, everyone. After facing criticism from Polyev, and food professor is responding to himself. Canada is more geopolitically isolated today than at any point in recent memory. Our agri-food sector is being used as collateral in unrelated industry policy fights. Unless Ottawa recalibrates its trade strategy, Canadian farmers will keep paying the price for political decisions made far from their fields. Link to the full article below. Yeah, and I mean, imagine being a canola farmer this year, right? Like, what an absolute nightmare, just day after day, and nobody doing a damn thing about anything, right? And them claiming elbows up and we're going to buy Canadian and blah, 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 while rewarding China. I mean, like, angry doesn't quite cut it, right? And yesterday I showed you footage of Jasmine interviewing the ambassador to the United States, or the ambassador of the United States in Canada, and I thought it was interesting. He said exactly the same thing to her as he's saying to Mackenzie Gray here. And I just think that it's worthwhile underlining our stupid behavior from our leaders is causing problems with our trade, with our biggest trading partner. If that relationship cracks or is put at risk, that's a really bad outcome, like catastrophically bad outcome. Like, you can't stop what happens next outcome. Like, we might just be absorbed by the United States and we might not be able to stop it because we're effing well bankrupt, right? Like, that kind of, you can't undo it. There's no choice. There's no nothing. It's either you join the United States or China absorbs you or something like that. And I don't know how it will all go, but it seems like given an opportunity to behave in a rational, reasonable, sane way, and an insane way that it pokes our biggest trading partner and longtime friend, the United States, in the eye. Carney has consistently chosen the insane way that pokes people in the eye and is very inefficient and actually harms us rather than helps us, while telling us that he's the best guy for the job and he's going to do all the best things and dancing like an idiot with his elbows up. Here's the ambassador.
For concerns over the free trade deal.
Canada is the country that has pulled the rug out from USMCA. So for a premier to say, well, the U.S. could pull it out at any minute, the response is, no, Canada pulled out the rug from USMCA.
Hoekstra also upset with premiers who've taken U.S. liquor off provincial store shelves and for telling Canadians to not travel to the U.S. But it's not just policy. For the Americans, it's also personal.
Why not let him say it? Why? Because then they can't control the whole narrative. Maybe he says some things that they don't want said on CBC. So they let him say it here, and then Mackenzie Gray cuts away when he's saying things that they don't want him to mention on air. And Mackenzie Gray repackages all of the things he's already said. Ridiculous, right? Ridiculous. But it's Canada who is behaving stupidly and putting our trade relationship at risk. Here, he's going to say one more thing, and I don't want to cut him off.
Some Canadian politicians have decided that they will attack the president personally, not on the policy, but them personally. Again, that is a Canadian decision. All we do is respond to it.
Those alleged...
How is this dumpster fire put on on national news and people are proud of this? Holy smoke. Editorializing, cutting away, that is so dishonest, so dishonest. Let the damn person speak, for crying out loud. I don't need to hear you retell us what he said to you. I trust you less than the ambassador. Holy cow. Gov.exe says, let me get this straight. Mark Carney's genius economic plan is to sabotage our relationship with the United States, risk $450 billion in trade, and become our own best customer by replacing 350 million customers, with 40 million customers. These are the steps you'd take to destroy a country, not build it. Yep. Absolutely. Here's Wiretap Media, and he says, Premier Doug Ford's campaign to put Canadian companies first ends before it even starts after a new report reveals that the province has awarded a massive contract to an American company to build one of Canada's largest hospitals. So the lesson here is some things we can't even do domestically. That's it. Right? Like, can we build a hospital like these guys can build a hospital at the same cost these guys can build a hospital? And the answer is no, because these guys were hired and not a Canadian firm. So maybe we can build a similar hospital, but it probably won't have everything that this hospital will have. So the Americans are better at building, and they can do it for cheaper. They can deliver it for cheaper. That's the cold hard facts here. And so we are screwing ourselves. Our politicians are behaving stupidly on the world stage, calling Trump, all sorts of names, blaming him for our economic problems, cutting away from the ambassador on global news. Are you kidding me, right? Like, you can't do that kind of stuff. That's the amateur hour. You have to let him say it and then let the citizens decide. And you say, I'm a conduit for this person to tell you what's going on, because this person represents the United States, and you should understand our relationship with the United States is what this person says it is. And they're just carving it up. It's butchery. It's butchery. It's unbelievable. Absolutely. So Doug Ford never could prioritize Canadian first, right? In fact, the ambassador said to Jasmine that the last option, if they can't find European, if they can't find domestic, they look for European. If they can't find European, they look for overseas. If they can't find overseas, then they maybe get American. But if they could do without it, they just don't get it at all. And I was like, wow, like, we are behaving stupidly, and we are not doing anything for self-preservation. And that's very concerning from a citizen's point of view. Here's Wiretap Media again. Let's do our grab bag of governance. And Wiretap Media says the House of Commons has been hacked. And it reminds me of the time when a carjacker broke into Carney's car to steal classified documents, but left the car behind. So these are the articles. House of Commons hit by a cyber attack from, quote, threat actor, internal email. Breached data includes information about government employees and devices. And thief carjacks ex-Goldman and head of Canada's central bank, Mark Carney's car, and steals classified documents. And this was the old classified documents thing in 2010, and that seems to happen a lot, right? We're gonna carjack you and really just leave the car behind and take the documents inside. So what are they doing with those documents? Blackmail? Here's the article about the most recent hack. House of Commons hit by cyber attack from threat actor. The House of Commons and Canada's cybersecurity agency are investigating a significant data breach caused by an unknown threat actor targeting employee information. According to an internal email obtained by CBC News, the House of Commons alerted staff on Monday that there was an information breach. It said a malicious actor was able to exploit a recent Microsoft vulnerability to gain unauthorized access to a database containing information used to manage computers and mobile devices. Some of the information obtained by the hacker is not available to the public, according to the email. That includes employees' names, job titles, office locations, and email addresses, as well as information regarding their House of Commons managed computers and mobile devices. Canada's Communications Security Establishment, CSE, said it's aware of the incident and is working in the House of Commons to provide support, but could not confirm who was behind the attack. The CSE defines a threat actor as a group or individual that aims with malicious intent to gain unauthorized access to otherwise affect victims' data, devices, systems, and networks. So they don't really know what happened, and they all they know is that somebody did this. Okay. I mean, sometimes things like that go undetected too, right? How long have they had access to those systems? How long and how much information have they collected, right? There's lots of questions, and it seems like previously there was a hack, and people who were involved in the hack were contacted by the government and given tools and identity protection, certain identity protections and things. And there's a very big sounding bug in my studio at this point in time. Anyway, and I wonder if there's going to be anything like that coming up with this hack. I'm not sure. It seems to be smaller in scope, targeting specific people in the House of Commons. But anyway, it's interesting to pay attention to. Here's Billboard Chris. And recently I reported that this billboard in Hamilton that says, "Let kids be kids." It's a blue background with some triangles and squares, I guess, representing kids. And it says, "Let kids be kids. Stop medical transition for minors." And Andrea Horvath said, "This is hateful. This is hate. We can't have this hate." And she had the billboard removed because it was on city land. And the billboard, she said, violated their city standards. And so Billboard Chris, it appears, will be taking that to court, and that'll be interesting. He says the city of Hamilton, Ontario is being sued after Mayor Andrea Horwath ordered this billboard to be taken down, saying it was hate. Andrea, why do you want to maim and sterilize kids and turn them into lifelong pharmaceutical patients? So there you go. Chris, Billboard Chris has incorporated in the United States a group of some kind of group to mount battles and things like this. And yes, he has me blocked. We disagreed about him policing his protesters at one of the protests at a school. And so people wanted to bring F Trudeau flags, or they just had the F Trudeau flags, and he got very angry at them. And I said, well, you can't really police people's speech. Isn't that tyrannical? And then he called me a bunch of names. And I was like, yeah, but policing people's speech is tyrannical, right? And then he blocked me. And I was like, okay. All right, man. He's like, if you don't understand why it's a terrible idea to bring those flags to a school, then you're an idiot, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, no, I understand why, but you can't do that. Like you can't tell people not to protest in the way they want to protest. You could say, take it somewhere else. And like, I'm not going to associate with you, but I think like being angry with people and like all that stuff is, and trying to control it is, well, you're just as bad as what you're fighting against, right? Like your way or the highway, my tyranny, not their tyranny. And I think like, okay, all that said, he's fighting against gender ideology, blah, 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 blah. I just think maybe I miscommunicated. Maybe I didn't communicate effectively, but I feel like it's not his place to police other people's speech, period. Anyway, Ryan says, good. This is the City News Toronto saying the U.S. State Department is taking aim at Canada's Online News Act in a human rights report that criticizes press freedom in Canada, which experts characterized Thursday as Orwellian. It is Orwellian. It's absolutely wild. The censorship in Canada is incredible. And I've been subject to it for years now, years, since 2020 and even before that too. And I will be interested to see, because I'm intending to do my show. I don't intend to stop my show. 2028 is going to be 10 years of this. So that's pretty wild. So I'm intending to do my show for at least 10 years and maybe more. And so I'm interested to see what happens, probably more. And I'm interested to see what happens after this censorship ends. Do you think the censorship ends, or is it going to get more sophisticated and I'll just disappear, right? Like, I hope not. But I think the censorship is going to be used. Grok is already taking over, and AI is going to be used in censorship, and people are going to believe that they're not censored, but they really are censored, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I feel like it's going to get worse. However, we're not going to feel it get worse. We're going to think it's getting better, but the AI is just going to get smarter at manipulating us. I hope I'm wrong about that. Anyway, the United States is trying to put pressure on Canada to loosen our speech laws and to fix our ridiculous policies. And I don't know if it's going to be successful, to be honest with you. Holly Doan is reporting, very proud that Blacklock's reporter did not take money from Meta or Google. We are 100% subscriber funded. That's press freedom. And the Globe and Mail says U.S. State Department report depicts Online News Act as undermining press freedom in Canada. Yeah, I think that's probably true. If you're being paid by Google and Meta and all of these other things, then you can't take on stories that might piss those people off or piss those corporations off. And the same with if you're taking money from the government, you're not gonna bite the hand that feeds you, right? And so that's exactly what's set up in this situation. Everybody's getting money, but not Holly Doan, not me. I'm subscriber funded as well. I take a little bit of advertising money from YouTube. 25,000 views on YouTube is $65 this month, for real. So it's useless. It's absolutely useless. So that's what they're doing, right? Censorship by another means. Franco Tetrazinos, he's the tax guy. What does he represent? Federal Director of Taxpayer.com. And he says, this is crazy. Yesterday, I told you that Mercedes Stevenson was reporting wine, candy, and room service, how Ottawa spent $170,000 on Canadian ISIS women. And like, that's a lot of money, right? And he says, this is crazy. One hotel room cost over $1,000 for 2 nights because of a $95 wine tab. Another ran to $850 with charges for junk food and $25 servings of red, white, and sparkling wines. The cost included $2,800 for catering, $24 sandwiches at the hotel's Bijou restaurant bar, and $86 worth of snack food and over-the-counter drugs at the hotel gift shop. So the hotels love this. They love this. The government's paying this bill. Yeah, whatever this person wants, just give it to them. It's fine. We'll pay the bill at the end. Whew, they love it. They love it. Do you want a bottle or you want it by the glass? They want it by the glass, right? And the restaurant and the hotel, they make bank, and the government just hands over the money. Oversight. What oversight? Who needs oversight? Melissa says, yikes, Canadian company Air Canada seems to have no problem with Canadians being stranded abroad. This is not a good look. And so Air Canada says, QP, Air Canada's flight attendants union, rejects agreement to fly Canadians home. As a result, 25,000 additional passengers are going to be stranded abroad. It wasn't Air Canada. It's the union that doesn't do that. I guess Air Canada proposed flying everybody home, and QP said no, according to Air Canada. So that's pretty bad. I was in a different country. I can't remember which country at this point in time. Cuba? No, it wasn't Cuba. It was Mexico maybe, or Jamaica maybe. And so I was in a different country. I think it was Mexico. And the Sky Service went under. So Sky Service went bankrupt, but my tickets were with Sky Service. And I was like, oh, holy cow, right? This isn't good. And so I was a news hound then. I'm a news hound now. And I knew 3 days before my wife knew. So she doesn't like reading the news when she's on vacation and things like that. She was like, no, I'm not going to read the news. I'm not interested in that right now. I was like, all right, cool. So when Sky Service went down, I was like, I'm sure they'll figure it out. We were at a nice resort and we had like 5 or 6 days left. It happened the day after we got there, or 2 days after we got there, really, really close. And I was like, I'm sure they'll figure it out. I'm sure like in a couple of days, everything will be figured out. Worst case scenario, we're just going to stay here. Like, I mean, great, right? I'll call work and I'll be like, oh, you'll never guess what happened, right? I'm figuring this is going to be great. And I did. I got 3 extra days. Not in that hotel, though. They sent us to an Iberostar, which was a step down from where we were at. But anyway, regardless of that, the Sky Service went under and then everybody panicked. And I was like, I'm sure they'll figure it out. And so people were on the phone and they would just hang up on you. They would be like, oh, okay, we're going to transfer you to a manager right now. And you would say, okay. And then it would get like the dial tone. That's that. So a whole bunch of hangups. And then I was like, let's just go to our room. Like, somebody's going to come to our room and say, you have to leave now. And this is the plane you're going to get on. And that's exactly what happened. They said, you guys have to leave now and you're going to go to the Iberostar and you have to have your luggage down by this time. And then you went to the Iberostar and you're going to get on a plane in a couple of days. That's what we were told. It's going to happen in a couple of days, we're sure. And I was like, okay, man. So the Iberostar was nice. It was fine. But pretty wild stuff, right? I didn't have to pay anything for any of it. I didn't get a bill or anything like that. So pretty wild. 25,000 people are going to be out, and probably Air Canada, like QP said no, probably because Air Canada is going to be on the hook for all of that. Hotel costs, the transfer costs, everything like that for me and like my hotel, like my wife and everything. They're probably going to have to pay for that. It would have been much cheaper if QP had said yes. So it seems like a play on the union to stick Air Canada with a huge bill from all of these resorts for 25,000 people, right? Like is that going to bankrupt Air Canada? Maybe not. But are they going to ask the government for help? Maybe. Who knows, right? Here's, I got to say goodbye to the stream. We're already at 23 minutes. Thanks for watching, everybody. And we will catch you tomorrow. And for everybody else, we will carry on with our grab bag of governance. Just make sure everything's working. Okay, good. Pierre Poilievre is talking about scrapping Mark Carney's ridiculous liberal ban on gas vehicles. This is a 23-minute speech. This is the new big push by the Conservative Party. Pierre Poilievre is